Hello and welcome back to our 6-part mini-series looking at playing rhythm electric guitar in worship. If you haven't checked out the other previous videos, I'd love to encourage you to do that as we're building up from video to video. In this video, we're going to look at tone and effects used by a rhythm electric guitarist. So what is guitar tone? Simply put, guitar tone is the sound of the end result of the way you pick or strum a properly maintained guitar and its strings through all of the various electronics used to shape the signal and ultimately broadcasted out of an amplifier. There are many factors that contribute to the way your tone is shaped, and these can be split into 3 overarching categories: guitars, effects, and amps. As a rhythm electric guitarist, the general type of tone you are looking for is a sound that is warmer and fuller, that uses a range of slightly overdriven or edge of breakup drive to a medium to heavy overdrive. Something like this. Using a tone like this allows you to sit in between the keys and the lead electric in the mix and not muddy up the sound of the song. Tone is also very personal, and everyone will have their own preference of what sounds good, and we don't want to create tone clones. But aiming for tone that sits in this region with your own touch can really benefit the other band members and the songs. So with that in mind, let's use our 3 categories, guitars, effects, and amps, to create a rhythm electric guitar tone. There are no right or wrong guitars to use for playing rhythm electric. The most important thing to keep in mind when it comes to your guitar is what pickup positions are key for rhythm guitar. You'll primarily want to play in the neck or neck and bridge positions. Here's an example of neck tone. And here's an example of neck and bridge tone. These settings are warmer and give your guitar a more balanced tone and will push more of your guitar signal to your amp, creating an overdriven sound. This also frees the lead guitarist up to utilize the brighter tone from their bridge pickups to help their lead lines cut through the mix while supporting them with a fuller sound. The next category we'll focus on is amps. The key to setting your amp up for a rhythm electric tone is to set your amp drive to the edge of breakup. You can do this by initially setting your master knob to the required output volume that you're looking for, that is appropriate for your situation, and your gain knob to where the amp starts to overdrive. Start with your gain knob low and then slowly increase your gain while playing until the sound just starts to change from clean to overdriven. This will be more noticeable the harder you strum. Let's set my amp up now. During this process, you'll need to continually adjust the master volume, as it will most likely increase the overall volume of your amp as you turn up the gain. Once you have set your gain for your amp, you will want to set your EQ. A great trick for setting your amp's EQ is to strum a chord and sweep through one of the EQ knobs, and listen for when the amp starts to open up, and set the EQ at that point. Here's an example of setting your EQ. Setting your EQ this way allows you to optimize the natural tone of your guitar and amp. You can now use this as a base and make any minor adjustments to taste. Remember, we are looking for a warmer, fuller tone, so we'll most likely be looking to have our amp set up to emphasize the mids and the bass more than the treble. The last category is effects. This is my favorite category. We will take a look at some essential effects, how they work together, and some starter settings for getting going. First up, a really important pedal to have on your board is the tuner. This will help ensure your guitar is always in tune and can also act as a mute switch for your guitar, which is pretty handy. Up next is an overdrive pedal, or 2 or 3. An overdrive pedal takes your guitar signal and adds an extra level of gain, similar to the gain knob of your amp, which then increases the amount of gain on your amp and makes your tone more overdriven or distorted. Most overdrive pedals also have a few additional settings like EQ or tone, which allows you to change the overall tone of your sound and to change the sound of your guitar on the fly to create dynamics in your playing. Here's an example of an overdrive pedal in action. You may be thinking that's cool, but why do I need it? And why would I need more than one? The answer is gain staging. Gain staging is a way of layering your gain to gradually increase the amount of overdrive being produced. This is especially useful when we consider our video about dynamics. Layering allows us to cater our overdrive for each part of the song. For example, in the verses, we may use our stage 1 overdrive, which is a more mellow, but hit our stage 2 overdrive when we are playing the chorus, to help add more energy and cut through the mix. Here's an example of 3 different stages of gain. To set your overdrive pedals for gain staging, you need to make sure they are unity volume with your amp. This means that when you switch on the pedal, the overall volume doesn't change, only the amount of overdrive. Next, you'll want to gradually increase the gain on your pedal until you reach the desired amount of overdrive using the same technique we applied while setting our amp tone. You want each pedal to build on the previous pedal's overdrive in stages. The next essential effect is delay. Delay takes your guitar signal and repeats it to a set tempo and number of repeats, kind of like an echo that you have full control of. Delays are incredibly useful for adding rhythm and texture to your playing, and they are super fun. Delay types, lengths of repeats, and volume of repeats tend to vary for each song. Here are a few popular delay settings that we use regularly and can be tweaked to fit more appropriately into different songs. The first one is the dotted eighth. The dotted eighth note delay adds a rhythmic syncopated delay to what you are playing. Here's an example of a dotted eighth note delay. This is really great for adding rhythm to simple single-note lead lines or arpeggiated chords and rhythmic strumming patterns. The next delay type is the quarter note delay. Quarter note delays can be used to help fill out your strumming patterns or pick chords and add body to your tone. It's important to try set your repeats low and not to continue into the next bar or chord, and to ensure that you don't lose clarity to what you're playing. Here's an example. Ambient delays are the next type of delay we're going to focus on. Ambient delays can be used in conjunction with reverb to create drones or textures and work really well with swells or slide guitar. Ambient delays can be modulated and tend to have a longer number of repeats and higher mix or delay volume. Here is an example of ambient delay. Delays can be tricky to get started with, but can be incredibly fun to use. If you are new to delay, I would recommend getting your hands on a delay with a tap tempo that allows you to tap the tempo of the song into the pedal, and it automatically sets the timing of the delays to be in time with the song. I would also suggest practicing along to a metronome. This applies to practicing in general, but is especially helpful when keeping time with delays, as they are time-based effects. Our last essential effect is reverb. The purpose of the reverb is to take what you have just played and make it sound like it was played in a specific space, like a room, a large hall, or a cathedral. Reverb adds depth to what you are playing and makes your guitar tone sound wider, larger, and more natural. There are many types of reverb and ways to implement them, but a few popular types of reverb we use are plate reverb. Plate reverb has a brighter tone and keeps the clarity of your tone while adding depth. This is useful for busier strumming patterns where you don't want to lose too much of your tone and ensure that your playing still cuts through the mix. The next reverb type is hall reverb. Hall reverb is slightly darker sounding and can make your guitar sound large and full with ambient trails. This can be useful for big diamond strums, like used in big choruses and bridges. Here's an example of a hall reverb. Our final reverb type is ambient reverb. This is generally a reverb that simulates a large space like a hall, a church, or a cathedral, and will have a level of modulation to add texture. It can also be a type of reverb called shimmer, where a version of your signal is pitched up and added to the reverb trail. These types of reverbs work well with higher mix and the size setting and are great for swells. Here's an example of a shimmer reverb. Our next pedal to focus on is the volume pedal. Volume pedals, although not technically an effect, but more of a utility pedal, are incredibly useful when it comes to playing electric guitar in worship, especially when it comes to playing ambiently. This is just scratching the surface of guitar effects, and other pedals to consider for worship settings are choruses, tremolo, and octave pedals. These, however, are less essential, but fun to play with, so I'd encourage you to see what is out there, experiment, and see what works for you and your style of playing. The world of guitar tone is a huge and sometimes quite overwhelming place. Luckily, electric guitarists love to talk about tone and effects, so if you are feeling a bit lost or in need of some advice, come and chat to any of the electric guitarists in the band. We are all constantly learning and growing, so let's do it together. That was a whirlwind walkthrough of rhythm electric guitar tone. In the next video, we'll apply everything we've learned in our series and play through a song we do on Sunday. It's going to be fun, so see you there.